Well, good morning, Timberlake Church. What an exciting season. You got to just see a recap video from across our various locations here in Western Washington. And let me tell you, for this location, it was so exciting. One of my favorite services that I have ever been a part of. And we were up from like 300 to almost 450, right in the 430s over here with attendance for that service. So huge thank you to you. For those of you who showed up, for those of you who invited people, it was just such a sweet time for us to be able to celebrate Christmas here together. And as we get started, I feel like I haven't seen you guys since last year. Hey, yeah, obligatory dad joke laugh. Oh, I love it. Anybody here make resolutions? Anybody New Year's resolutions people? A couple people, one, two. I won't make you shout them out. But Christmas Eve, I had a ton of fun in this room. And we started with this video where you all shouted out answers to these different like movie quotes. I want to try something like that again, but this time, New Year's resolution family feud edition. For us. Now, I'm not going to tell a group of you to come up on stage, but what we are going to do, we have a company that has it's put together the top 8 New Year's resolutions based on a survey of 539 people. It's from a website called Statista, and we have set it up as a Family Feud style game. And to up the stakes, we have prizes. So here's how it works. You're all on the same team, don't worry. We're going to put up this Family Feud board behind me, and if anybody has a guess at what the top, one of the top 8 New Year's resolutions, we already got one for this year are, we got 3, okay. If we get through the first 4, and we are flying, I'm going to start giving out prizes. I'm going to start giving out our new Timberlake hats. But let's get started. I saw a hand over here. Lose weight. Do we have lose weight up on the board? And we do. That is number 5. All right. Good. That's getting us warmed up. Yeah. Diet. I'm going to say that's probably the same as lose weight. Do we have something for eat healthier? Oh, we have eat healthier too. Okay. We're at 2 of them. Yeah. Start exercising. Do we have exercise on here? Exercise more. Number 1. All right. They're very similar. Yeah. Anybody else? Any other guesses? We got 5 left, if I'm counting right. Yeah. Go to church. Is going church on the board? Going to church on the board. All right. Oh, no. We got our first X. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah. Travel more. Do we have travel more on the board? Travel more. Spend more time with loved ones. We'll take it. All right. We've made it to 4. If we can get, just for any more we get correct without getting to 3 failures, I'm going to start throwing out these Timberlake hats. Just generally the direction of, okay, I heard one. Learn a new language. Do we have learn a new language? No. Oh, shoot. Okay. Less screen time. Is less screen time on here? Moment of truth for us. Oh, no. That was a good guess. I'm still going to give you a hat. Here you go. We didn't do well first service, so here's a couple more hats for you all. Anybody who wants one. I had 8 to give away, and we gave away 1. So there we go. You can fight someone for that one. It's in the aisle. All right, let's see. Which are the ones we missed? A drink less is a good one. It's not on here. Save money. 2025 did not do me well for that one. Let's see. Improve job performance. Yep, new you. Or how's it go? New year, new you. Same inbox, but that's okay. Do more for the environment. I think this was the hardest one. And last one, reduce stress at work. Nobody said that, which is good. Because honestly, that last one, as I read it, looking at this website, I kind of felt like it was maybe a cry for help more than a New Year's resolution. We do have a care team here at Timberlake. Just fill out a connection card, put that in the prayer request section. We'd be happy to help you. Yeah, I mean, new year, new you, same pace, same expectations, maybe more expectations if you got promoted this year. I got a question for you, and you don't need to tell me the answer, but do you remember your worst job? Do you remember the worst job you've ever had? Anybody? Like you got it in your mind, it's the stress, or maybe it was the boss, or maybe it was just the type of work that you were doing. Just a couple of us. Yeah, and if you're on Timberlake staff, don't raise your hand, please. See how it is. No, I remember this moment, like this reduced stress at work New Year's resolution brought me back to this moment where, like, there were a lot of things I liked about the church that I was working at the time, but I was on this team, and our job was to go through, simple in theory, but difficult in practice. We had to go through and clean the entire church throughout the week after church services and preschool. And the entire building had to be cleaned and maintained. There were 3 of us, and we would get there after church service with our backpack vacuums on. This is an actual photo of us from that time, just ready to get after it. But what made this way more complicated than it sounds is it wasn't a church like this one. There was 45,000 square feet. It wasn't so much what you might think of as a church as like an airport with like Jesus music playing through it. And so all day, end to end of this building, sometimes into the early hours of the morning, we were cleaning. And sometimes the cleaning was annoying, but eventually the like grossness of it, you just kind of leave in the past and you move on, you wear gloves and it's fine. But sometimes what really got me was the feedback. Like you'd be out in the lobby and you feel really good. Everything's looking spotless. You're so proud of yourself and the team. And somebody comes out and they're like, there's a mess in the women's bathroom. And it's, again, okay. It never ends. Like, you know the feeling where you go in and just like again and again and again, there's always something to chase. And I guess chaos is gender inclusive too, which is good. Okay, I thought that was funny, but no one else did. Full-time, 5 days a week at least, cleaning all 45,000 square feet, and then you turn around and somehow it is a mess again. Now, I bet some of you have felt this too. At work, it's you're working, you're going to sell another house. You are going to teach another student. You are going to finish, inbox 0 once more, and you get through whatever that goal is, whatever that year is, whatever that sale is, and you get to that moment, and it's another one or another 5, or if it's emails, apparently another 80 that are waiting for you. And it just never ends. Maybe you're a parent and at home, you finally get through the laundry and you turn around and somehow it is just multiplied into more, a kid just makes a mess all over the clean clothes and you're just back at square one. You finish dinner and you sit down, you're like, I finally get 30 minutes to myself. So you breathe and you turn around and a goldfish tornado has made its way through your room. There's some socks in there too. You don't even know where they came from. The work never ends. Like this is just my experience when it comes to New Year's resolutions, when it comes to my job, when it comes to just life in general, it just never ends. And it comes to me really in this experience of faith and of what does it look like for me to have New Year's resolutions or goals or hopes about my faith or about my experience with Jesus in 2026. It might be for you. I'm going to fix that habit. I'm going to get a handle on this addiction. I'm going to fix this part of my character. I'm going to start reading the Bible. And you get in and you're doing great for like 30 minutes or a week or 2 weeks or maybe an entire month, all of January. And you're feeling like you're thinking better. You are acting better. You are reacting better. You feel like you are doing it. You have finally cleaned 45,000 square feet of your heart, of your soul, of your mind, and you are finally feeling like you are in a good spot. And then it's just one day, one choice, maybe one weekend in Vegas, whatever it is. And it's a moment maybe you feel like you can't take back. And it feels like you undid 45,000 square feet of cleaning, of work, of preparation for this next year. And so eventually, maybe you've been here, especially when it comes to New Year's resolutions, I get here too. You start to ask, what's the point? What is the point? It's just going to get messy again. Like you're just so sick and tired of 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back. Is growth even possible? And I know for me, like I can be pretty good at my goals. I can be pretty good at that thing that I want to chase after until crisis hits. Like even like a small crisis, like, oh, my kid ate another toy and now has to go to the ER. Anybody else? No, just me? Okay, that's fine. I say another, like it happens a lot. It happened once. Okay, it's fine. or whatever the moment is for you. It's a fight with your spouse. It's that conflict you had with a family member over Christmas. And just like those weight goals that you have, those workout goals that you have, those finance goals that you have, just start to fall apart. And it feels like there's no chance. What is the point? And what I've learned and what I'm struggling through in this season, and maybe you'll relate to, is I just can't discipline myself through these moments. Like I get to these moments when I look back and I know the goal and I know I haven't made any real significant lasting progress on it and I'm about to give up. Like it's no more use. I'm going to why would I even try reading the Bible again? Why would I even take this next step? Why would I even go to church again? Nothing's changing. Why would I even try counseling again? Nothing is making a difference. What is the point? We're starting in January this new series called Starting Point. And during this series, we're going to be looking at the various building blocks of faith. And this will be helpful, I think, for you, whether you've been a Christian for a really long time or you're not even sure about this whole Jesus thing, but you came to Christmas Eve and you showed up here today ready to see if this could actually be helpful and meaningful for your life. And what we're going to do is we're going to look through this series at various building blocks that make up what it means to follow Jesus, especially here at Timberlake. And a question I get asked all the time, especially by people who have been here for a while, is some variation of how do I grow? How do I grow in my walk? How do I grow in my character? How do I grow in my relationship with Jesus? How do I grow as a member here at Timberlake? And all the time, we have these conversations about how do I grow? What does growth look like? What does God want for me? What does God want from me? What does my future look like as a follower of Jesus, or somebody who's just curious about what it means to follow Jesus? And as we dive into that question, what I want to do is take a second and look at this book, this really document that was written to the ancient nation of Israel. You see, Israel really actually, in a literal sense, wasn't particularly able to be counted as a nation in this point in their history. They still thought of themselves as a distinct people group, but their nation had split and then been conquered by two different empires. These were people who were exhausted and their hope was gone, and they didn't need a little more motivation. They didn't just need a nap. They were on the edge of giving up. You see, they'd seen their entire world fall apart. All of their prayers and hopes and questions to God had begun to look like they were never going to be answered. Their capital city, where a lot of their identity as a people was captured and taken over by these other empires. Their temple that represented God being there with them as a people had been destroyed. Their leaders had failed, and failure felt certain. Their future felt uncertain. They had been, many of them, taken from their homes. They didn't just need a little bit more motivation. They felt like giving up. And so there's this long and complex book that's really actually a series of messages from a man in the Bible named Ezekiel, who wrote to Israel throughout these different phases of this exile, of this conquering point in their history. And it's a really long and complex book, but we can zoom in on one section in the middle to learn all about what Ezekiel communicates to the Israelites about growth and about their future and about how we should approach following God even today. So there's three elements to know about growth. And the first one, Ezekiel tells us, is that growth is a natural response, not effort-driven. Look at this. Ezekiel writes, I will give you a new heart, and I will put a new spirit in you. I will take out your stone heart and give you a heart of flesh, and I will put my spirit in you so that you will follow my decrees and be careful to obey my regulation. You see, here Ezekiel takes this idea of growth and future and what does it look like to follow God and entirely reframes it. He takes out any idea, any concept that enough effort or enough work could potentially ever get us where God wants us to be, and says that instead what growth looks like is a natural way of living that comes from a new heart, that comes from God's Spirit. In fact, this word heart is really interesting. In the Hebrew, it's actually lev or levav. And the idea in like English in America, we talk about heart really meaning mostly like all of the emotions and feelings that we have, right? But in ancient Israel, they understood the heart, this word levav, that we translate heart, to really actually be the command center for you as a human. It's where all of your thoughts and all of your feelings and all of your decision-making process flows through. That's the idea that he has when he talks about heart. And he says this, which is like it's this idea of like what we would call our heart and our brain and everything about us in one word, lev. And he says that he is going to reach in and replace us. That this isn't about emotions, that this is about the control center for your whole self. I think so many people, when I talk to them, feel this pressure to try harder, to work harder, to believe more correctly. And God says, actually, no, our natural state is to have a stone heart, to be rigid, to be unchanging, to become defensive when somebody gives us feedback about us or feedback about our work or says something to us that challenges the way that we see the world or the way that we see God. This is the natural state that I think all of us, including myself, fall into. And God says, actually, no, I'm not gonna ask you to just work harder. I'm gonna reach in and take out this rigid stone heart and replace it with a heart of flesh, a heart that is alive. And this idea of a stone heart isn't to shame anybody, to say, hey, you needed to do better and you did wrong and that caused your heart to be hard, that caused your heart to be stony. It is instead really not about behavior at all. It is about replacement. And that replacement, that transplant of a new heart is what makes us fully alive. That you don't need to come into church and learn to be more religious or better at pretending that you are. What you and I need is for the Holy Spirit, for God to step in and make us fully alive. Which is why Jesus says this, I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. That our life here on earth as followers of Jesus or as people who are exploring what it might mean to follow Jesus is not to manage our life better or manage the issues in our life better or manage our behavior or our character better, but to be transformed into a new way of living. That our heart changes, and in that process, growth actually stops being about pressure, stops being about trying. It stops being about more restrictions and starts being about living more fully. That for us in 2026, Ezekiel would be inviting us towards less white knuckling and more listening, less comparison and more discernment. That growth actually isn't something that's complex or by any means unnatural, but it is the most natural thing that happens when a seed is planted in the right conditions. This is true about us as a church and how we'll grow as a church. This is true about us as individuals, that we don't grow when we try harder or force it harder or manhandle the plant or the seed or whatever the metaphor is, but instead it happens when the conditions are right for us to grow naturally. And a key condition for that growth is relationship. You see, Ezekiel's second point is this. The growth is about presence, not performance. We see that, did you catch it in that second verse we read? He said this, and I will put my spirit in you so that you will follow my decrees and be careful to obey my regulations. And let me just be clear here, the order matters. That it is not about you and I following rules so that God would come close to us, but that he would come close to us, and that would be the conditions in which life change can actually happen. Which means that presence, God's presence, is not the reward for growth. God's presence is the environment in which growth happens. Don't get this backwards. That we often, I think, in church world or just as humans, we tend to treat God's presence like a reward for doing well. That if you're consistent and you're disciplined and you are cleaned up, God will come close. But according to Ezekiel, God doesn't move towards you after you grow, but so that you grow. And so for you and I, the actual invitation is for us to learn to be present, that we would learn to listen. And for you, that might mean that it's time to start reading the Bible. It's time to read Scripture. Not because it's a requirement or a to-do list that you need to follow, but so that we can cultivate being the sort of people who are listening and aware of the way God might be speaking to us or leading us. For you, instead of Scripture, maybe, or in addition to Scripture, I would say might be the most healthy way to approach this. It might be that your next step's also that you step into a group. Or maybe for you, it's time to lead a group, to start a group, because there's not the one that you need in this season of life, but that means there's not a group that somebody else needs in this season of life, and it's time for you to say, I don't know how to do it all, but I'm going to step in and I'm going to try. Maybe you're like, I'm not going to ever lead a group, but I'll open up my home for somebody to lead a group in my home this winter season. And so that'll be my next step for how to be connected in community and listening when God chooses to speak through others. Another way that many people find they're able to cultivate listening is by just taking time in their commute or their car, not to work, but to listen to music that puts you in the right headspace, by taking some time to pray and listen for even the message, the nudge. Some people call it hearing from God, but really I think most of us experience it just as like a nudge in our heart that towards something or someone that might feel a little bit surprising or uncomfortable. In 1995, which is a great year, the year somebody on the stage was born, a lady named Pearl Tadema saw a local issue of homelessness in her city and felt the need to do something about it. She felt that tug in her heart. The homelessness issue was beginning to grow, and so she looked around and she saw there's a lot of great programs for the homeless, but none of them were specifically geared towards homeless women and kids. And so she decided she was going to take action on this nudge she felt in her heart. She was going to step out. She rallied her friends and her church, and in her hometown, they went and they purchased a home. Together, they brought it together. They furnished it and invited women and children who are in homelessness or in domestic violence situations or in addiction who wanted to get out to step in and live in this house and find a safe way to take the next step into a healthier lifestyle. And after that, they actually expanded after a few years into the apartments next door to the house with the goal of being able to allow more and more of these women and children to step out of homelessness or out of unsafe environments and into an environment where they could take a next step and experience a fullness of life. You see, Pearl, in this moment, when she made that decision, she was 65 years old. She started the organization that now goes by the name Acres of Diamonds, and it's just a couple blocks from here. And they're in the middle of a over $1 million campaign project to expand and be able to meet the needs of even more women and children in this city. This is what can happen when you choose to listen to that little tug in your heart, when you choose to be somebody who is present and listening to God in whatever he has for you. Now, let me be clear. Your next step might be a lot simpler than buying a house and setting it up for homeless people. Your next step might be as simple as like actually picking up the phone and calling the counselor that you've talked so many times about setting up an appointment with, but you never did. Or it might be as simple as having a conversation with that family member that you need to talk to, that coworker that you need to challenge, that friend who's doing something dangerous, and you need to be the one to say, hey, I don't know if you see this the way that I see it, in love and in kindness and in support. Or maybe for you, it's time to step in and volunteer. Maybe it's here at the church. Maybe it's at the school. Maybe it's at Acres of Diamonds. Somewhere just to step in and give your time, or to lead a group, or to just join a group. Look, just pick one. I'm not telling you to pick all of these, but pick something that not because it feels convenient for you, but because we become a people. You become a person who, if you're a follower of Jesus, you practice being just aware of that tugs on your heart or the tug in your mind towards showing love and care for somebody else around you. You see, Crops don't try to grow. Trees don't try to grow. They don't work harder. We can't make them grow faster by pulling on them or lifting them up or putting pressure on them. They grow when the environments that they are in are conducive to growth. And then it's the most natural thing. The third thing we see from Ezekiel's message about growth is that growth faces outward and not inward. Here's a passage just a couple verses later. He says, "This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am ready to hear Israel's prayers." So Israel's been praying. There are people who have been saying, "Hey, God, we need you to step in." And I know you and I, we've often, many of us will say, "Oh, I've been praying for God to step in. I am waiting for God to step in. I need him to show up here because I can't do it myself." And God says, "I am ready to hear Israel's prayers and to increase their numbers like a flock. They will be as numerous as the sacred flocks that fill Jerusalem's streets at the time of her festivals. The ruined cities will become crowded with people once more, and everyone will know that I am the Lord." You see, he says, I'm ready to step in. I'm going to meet their needs. I'm going to answer their prayer requests. I'm going to step in to the moment where they can't fix it, but I can. But why? Not so that you grow, not so that you become more full of faith. I mean, those things might happen too, but so that everyone may know that I am the Lord. And while this might feel a little weird to us at first, it's meant really to feel freeing. That it's not about learning more info or getting it right or having a perfectly manicured internal, mental, or emotional life. It is not about performing, becoming perfect, whatever that could possibly look like on this side of heaven. It is about representing God in a way that makes a difference in other people's lives. You see, how we live and how we act as a community, as a church, how you act as individuals at your family gatherings, on social media, how you respond and react actually makes a difference in the way that God is seen. It begins to shape the way that our community understands who God is. That God changes people, individuals like you and I, who show up with just openness to being changed. And then our community begins to change because our family begins to change, or our workplace begins to change, and then our city begins to change. And then according to Ezekiel, these cities fill with life. And many of us, we can look out and we can see all signs of life here in Duval, but how many of us are willing to look a step deeper and see below the surface and see what the Bible refers to as spiritual death in the hearts of people who are experiencing what feels like death in their mental health, or in their emotional well-being, or in their loneliness in their communities. And these are not the end-all be-all, but they are indicators of this opportunity. Nothing wrong with them because they did it to deserve it, but instead opportunities where every one of us defaults to having a stone heart, to being rigid, to not being alive to or awake to the things of God. And we are offered the invitation to step in and really to have an experience with God's Spirit that begins to change us, sometimes in ways we didn't expect and we're not always comfortable with. You see, biblical growth leads to a radical love for others. And let me just tell you, there's a lot of performative love in this world. My wife told me just a couple weeks ago about this story. It was a man in Austin who recorded a video that went viral. And it was outside a giving tree in a Walmart, giving tree is what we call it, an angel tree in a Walmart. Angel tree is this program from the Salvation Army where there's these tags, and you can go and take a tag and buy gifts for a kid who might not get one otherwise, and then donate those gifts to these kids through the Salvation Army. And this man noticed these women who were taking this selfie video talking to social media. Basically, oh, these kids are going to love these gifts. Look at this haul. They had this cart just full of presents. We're so excited. They're going to have such an amazing time. And they end this video and take the giving tree tag, and the two of them walk off. And this man notices they leave the car behind, but he decides, well, you know what, it's fairly normal. People go, they'll put the cart here, they'll go buy other things, they'll come back. So he goes and he does his shopping. But at the end of his shopping trip, he comes back to see that the cart is still there, that these ladies took a video of them for social media saying, look how giving we are, and then left all the presents in the cart and took the tag so nobody else could go and purchase for these kids. There is so much performative love in the world. There are so many times that you and I are tempted to do or say things because of how we'll be seen, how it impacts the people who are going to influence us or that we want to have influence over. Our world is full of self-serving, selfish, performative love. And when Jesus replaces your heart, he replaces it with a radical, others-focused, not self-absorbed, not inward, outward-focused love. Living from a new heart means that my life quietly tells the truth about God. This is where it all comes down. That living from a new heart means that my life quietly tells the truth about God. And it tells the truth about God to me, and it tells the truth about God to my kids, and it tells the truth about God to my neighbors, and my coworkers, and that person that I haven't named yet, but you really hope I don't, family member, coworker, whoever it is. We all have someone, no judgment. That each of us, not every one of us feels this way, but all of us, I think, are prone to the temptation to feel crushed by the need to be better. And some of us are just really good at managing that expectation or that pressure. And with that said, I want to show you this line that was written by Jesus' closest friend and disciple, a man by the name of John. Jesus says this, or John says this. If our hearts condemn us, we know that God is greater than our hearts, and he knows everything. This is the apparent paradox, the contradiction between the way you and I naturally chase growth and the way that the Bible tells us growth actually happens. That you and I are just so easily tempted towards trying harder, working more, doing the church things, or like being more religious, learning, Bible study, whatever it is. All of those are good things in and of themselves in the right place. I'm not saying don't do those things, but I'm saying the temptation is very easy to believe that that is just what growth looks like. And many of us, because we've had that definition of growth or that story about growth given to us by a pastor, by a parent, by a grandparent, whoever, who didn't, let's be honest, know any better and was trying to do the best with what they had, we can walk into a place like this. We can walk into a month like this. We can walk into New Year's resolutions feeling like we're already a failure, feeling like we're discouraged. How many times have you tried whatever it is? And will this January be any different? So I just hope that this message reminds you that whatever you come in here feeling, whatever your motivations are, that God is greater than your heart, that God is greater than your effort, that God is greater than your consistency, that God is greater than your worst patterns and your best intentions. It was never about pressure. It was never about white-knuckling it to the end. It was never through shame, just trusting that God is working, listening to him, allowing him the space to replace your heart. Because he's not going to do it if you're not going to let him. So today isn't an invitation to try harder. It's an invitation to live in a life that's totally different. To live in step with God's Spirit and to stay aware of his presence in our church, in your life, and in your family. I just wonder, what if God was known as a generous God because his people were known as generous people? What if God was known as a God of peace because his people came together as people of peace, not just in this room, but at that family gathering, but online, like even on social media? I know people of peace isn't easy there. What if God was known as a God who loves and cares for those who are in a messy life situation and an uncomfortable story, because we were people who were inviting and close and generous and hospitable towards people who are in a messy story and who maybe even make you uncomfortable? What if God was known as a God of forgiveness because of the way you and I forgave other people? What if God was known as a God who is so closely focused on the poor and the disenfranchised and the people who feel invisible here in Duval, in the Snoqualmie Valley, because this church was so focused on showing up in relation to and connection with people like that? It's not about performance. It's about representation. An invitation for you and I not to try harder, but to live different. To live in step with God's Spirit and aware of his presence. Would you pray with me?